I think depression is when people are unhappy within themselves and they think of themselves as failures, or sometimes maybe when they don't know the purpose of why they're doing something and they're just not happy with their lives.
If you're feeling down all the time, and if you're not able to get in a happy, nice mood, and if the weather is like here all the time, if it's raining and it gets dark soon, and you never feel like doing anything, and you don't want to get out of your bed, and I don't know, every little thing can make you cry, or maybe not even cry, but sad or upset you.
phase phase in your life when you feel very dark and depressed all the time, and like there's no light or no hope.
I think that depression it's not just like a regular sadness or when you're feeling down. It's like that except like 100 times worse. And it's kind of like when you don't see any future, you just don't see anything for you. You just feel like hopeless and pointless, and like there's no, like, kind of trapped, like there's no way out, and where you just don't want to do anything. You don't want to talk to people, you don't want to see people, you just everything's pointless. And that's what I think depression is.
Depression?
Yes.
I feel like depression is when somebody is down and they're not really in the mood, I guess. Yeah.
Depression is when you don't feel like yourself, like you feel like you have nothing to live for, so you just become sad and you're not yourself.
I think it's like you could describe it as a black hole, like endless black, that you have to go through, and maybe you could describe it as a black ball inside you. You can feel it in your heart, and you can also feel it in your throat.
I think that men suffer more because men are kind of told to bottle up all their emotions, and I think that's a main reason that people get depressed, because they don't express their emotions, and it's kind of looked down upon if guys do that, so I think that they would probably suffer more.
Females, yes, of course, females. Due to the fact they're really sentimental.
We go through a lot. Yes, we're tough, but we get put through a lot of things.
I would say women, because men are usually out there doing the work or doing whatever, but women most of the times are at home and take care of the kid, so sometimes things get stressful for them and they kind of like sit down and like think about life, and I think because they have a lot of free times, most women at least, they just think about what they could have done with their lives, and I think they fall into depression.
I think it's men, because women are more likely willing to speak about their feelings and their problems.
Maybe women, but there are also a lot of depressed men, depressed and lonely men as well, so it might be women because they are in general more emotional.
I think both, but I think men do a good job at hiding it, whereas women can always share it with their friends and they feel more comfortable talking about it. But it could be men and women both could have their reasons, like financial and relationships and stuff.
I know that more females access the service. I haven't really looked into why that is. I have no idea why. I could, say that possibly women are more likely to look for support when they need it, whereas young men, I don't know, perhaps seeking support is a bit of a weakness.
Being a male with depression is almost very different, because in our society men are expected to be very strong and be very always have a strong positive attitude and never show any signs of weakness, and it's quite hard to admit, especially to other people my gender, but I at times I do feel very weak and I'm not as strong as other people are, and I think that's one of the main problems with the way society views mental health at the moment, because the highest rate of suicide of males is between 16 and 25, and it's the fact when you're that young male, and you feel unable to like confront, you know, other people about it because you don't want to appear weak, and you're going through those teenage years, so you're even struggling to personally identify yourself. It's very hard to admit to people, yeah, occasionally I feel, you know, depressed or quite lethargic or weak. So I imagine it to be a very different experience to be a male with mental illness than a female. Obviously both suffer it, you know, in very different ways, and, you know, often, like, I've met girls who suffer mental illness worse than I have, but it's a completely different experience when society expects you to be strong, but obviously sometimes you just can't be.
Well, I suppose there's two ways of looking at it. How does society look at it, and how do the men themselves look at it? I think probably, again, it's just my opinion, but I suspect men with depression are often seen as weak, or it's a sign of weakness, or and you know, someone who's not strong. You know, traditionally men are supposed to be strong. You know, in this kind of traditional ways of looking at the sexes. So I think a lot of men struggle with it because they don't want to admit it. They just rather fight through it. Whereas I think women, again, I'm generalising, but I think they're more open to talking about their feelings, or how they're feeling. If they're feeling low, or they're feeling depressed, or they're feeling happy even, they'll tell you. But whereas men just kind of tend to keep it inside, I think. As a man, I know that to some extent.
During my high school days, no one particularly suspected, mainly because when you're around that age, like, people don't think about mental illness being something that can affect you. It was only ever brought up with one of my friends during my college days, when he as well had depression, had similar experiences to me, and me and him had like a very deep chat, and that was the first person I met who of my own age who had like a similar experience to me. And me and him are still very close friends, and we, you know, it's just nice to be able to share that that kind of experience. But having depression often affects people's perception of you in two different ways. Either one, they're kind of wary of you thinking, but you might just suddenly lose it and like attack them or something like that. Or another way people are treating me differently when I've told them is they are suddenly very wary and cautious of the fact, but I might, you know, just go out and like kill myself, or I might just suddenly like, you know, drop, and they always seem a bit cautious and wary and say, if I say to them, oh, I'm feeling a bit tired today, they'll kind of look at you in that strange way and think, oh, you know, is he about to just top himself and stuff like that. So it kind of goes both ways, where other people are very negatively like wary of you and think, oh, you know, you're a bad influence and stuff like that because of it, or people are far too overcautious of you. And because it's such a personal thing and affects everyone so differently, each person who has depression or has any sort of mental illness will feel it in an extremely different way and have completely different experiences and even different reasons why they develop the symptoms in the first place.
If you think you have depression or anxiety, or you just feel generally just rubbish, sad, or very low, then you need to seek a professional help. Your GP definitely is the first port of call, one of the first ports of call. Counselling services that we have at MMU. If you can't see our counselling services, there are lots of support networks outside in the city. There are, of course, Samaritans, for example. There are lots of different charities you can access. But I think the GP is the first port, because he or she can direct you to those various places as well. And then yes, if you're a student here, our counselling services, our disability services, myself, your tutors, just make sure you speak to somebody about it, and then that person will advise you where's the best place to get support and help.
One of the side effects of having depression is the fact, but you often get a sense of feeling of hopelessness. And I remember waking up some mornings and just seeing no hope in anything I was doing, and the fact that I felt like I was permanently going to fail and I never going to amount to anything. And it became so bad, but obviously suicidal thoughts do start to go around your mind, and so you wake up with this odd sense of not caring what happens to you, and almost like in complete defiance to what the rest of your body and the rest of your mind will want to feel, because obviously you the self preservation instinct inside you wants to obviously keep you alive at all times, but when the depression gets that bad and when you're feeling a hopelessness just goes to that length, you kind of struggle to, like, you know, bother. Why should I keep on trying to preserve myself? So I guess that's like the most dangerous side effect of depression, the fact that you sometimes just feel like life isn't worth living.
Well, a wide variety. Often they don't tell me what they think they are because it's very personal. Something to do with childhood, of course, something personal within the family. Could be divorce, you know, abuse. They're the worst things that can happen to children. You know, relationship breakdowns, their own relationship breakdown. That often is a big cause. You know, lack of confidence, not being built up at school, being told they're not good enough at school, being told they're not good enough at home. I mean, drug abuse. There's so many different things that cause, and I'm not even a doctor, I don't know half of them. So, but there are so many things that cause anxiety and stress and depression, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's lots more.
It varies very wildly between people who have depression, what helps them the best. But me personally, I found that counselling helped me the best. Instead of just going on medication, I just discuss my issues and discuss the thoughts I was feeling and discuss what affects me. And to speak to someone about those issues, I found to be a great help. And it's something what's not immediately offered on the NHS, what I found interesting. When I went to a doctor in Greater Manchester, they immediately offered me the medication option first before counselling even became an option. As when I went to a doctor in another part of Britain, they offered me counselling and medication as both equal options. So I think one of the main problems with how they treat people with depression is, depending on what part of the country you even live in, depends greatly on what kind of treatment you'll be offered straight away. And because mental illness is such a personal thing, but it's this is quite a big problem in how doctors and the medical profession are dealing with people with mental health. The fact, but if they think, but you know, medication is immediately the main solution to these problems, which it affects people so personally, but obviously medication isn't going to help everybody.